first attempt at creating a series for this channel. Every week I'm going to be reviewing a different version of Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland was one of my favorite stories as a kid, and it still is. I love seeing all the different ways that people put their own spin on the story. There are actually many different versions of Alice in Wonderland. When I first had the idea for this series, I thought it was going to be like 7, 8, 10 at the most weeks that it would last. But I looked it up, and I will probably have enough material to keep this series going for a long time. On the Wikipedia page alone, there was at least 30 different film and television adaptations, and those are just the ones that are like direct adaptations. They're not counting spin-offs or things inspired by the story. So I have no idea how long this series will last, but I'm excited to find some new versions to watch. So this series was inspired by my friend Rachel Wagner. She's another reviewer at the Rotoscopers. She suggested that I review the 2010 version of Alice in Wonderland once I start a review channel, because she does not like the movie and I really like the movie. And for as much as I really like the movie, I am always surprised to find out that lots of people don't like it. I seem to be one of the few in the online community that actually like it. Now, I know the movie is not hated. It was popular enough to warrant a sequel. But for people who review it online, they seem to find all sorts of fault with it, which I do not. I really like the movie. So for those of you who may have never seen it, the movie is different than most other adaptations because it takes the story of Alice in Wonderland, but does it from the perspective of Alice as an adult. They went in a more Hook-like direction. Hook was a movie from the 90s where Peter Pan had grown up and then went back to Neverland. So this takes that idea and incorporates it into the story of Alice in Wonderland. One of the big things I really love about this movie is the visuals. I am a very visual person. I love art, I love design, I love color, and this movie is just full of that. There's so much color, both dark and bright, that mix together. And there's so many cool designs and little things to notice in the background. It just makes the film very visually pleasing, and I really enjoy that about it. I realize that a lot of that design happens to be CGI. I know that's a strike against it in many more serious reviewers' eyes, but I don't care. I love it, and I think it looks cool. Sort of in that same vein, there's a lot of CGI creatures in the movie, and I know, again, a lot of people have a problem with that, but again, I don't care. I think they're cool. From the little creatures to the big ones like the Bandersnatch or the Jub Jub bird, they were just so well designed that they just stuck out to me as really interesting and a great part of the movie. In addition to all the creatures, there was a lot of characters that I really loved. I love all the characters in Alice in Wonderland anyway, so I really enjoy seeing how each new version puts their own spin on them. This version of the Red Queen in particular was a really great character. She had so many great lines, and even though she's horrible, she's also hilarious, and I really like horrible and hilarious characters, so I really liked the Red Queen. And it didn't hurt anything that she's played by Helena Bonham Carter, who I have liked ever since I was probably an early teenager. She was in a mini-series about Merlin. She played Morgan Le Fay, and she was one of my favorite characters in that. That was years ago, but ever since then I have loved her, and I love seeing her in new things, and this is one of my favorite recent things that she's been in. In addition to her, there was also the White Queen, played by Anne Hathaway, who I also love. I loved her in Princess Diaries back when I was a kid again, and I know a lot of people don't like her for whatever reason, but I really like her, and I loved her in this role. She's just weird and funny and beautiful, but kind of creepy, if that makes any sense. She's so interesting that I really liked her, and I really like her character. And of course, I can't not mention Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter. It's probably cliche to say this, but I loved Johnny Depp as Mad Hatter. He was just so strange, like most of his characters, he always plays a strange character, but as someone who loves strange characters, I really liked the Mad Hatter, and I love Johnny Depp in this movie. And those were only 3 of the great actors in this movie. There's so many side characters and so many great actors who play them. Matt Lucas, Alan Rickman, Stephen Fry, there's so many, and all of them helped raise the movie up to something a lot greater than what it would have been without them. I also really loved the music in this movie. Danny Elfman has been one of my favorite composers for years. His main theme for Alice is so memorable, and I love it every time I hear it start playing. It's so great. One of my absolute favorite things about the movie comes at the end, which is the fight with the Jabberwocky. Ever since I was a kid, the Jabberwocky has been a part of the book that I've wanted to see on screen. Every time I'd see a version of Alice in Wonderland, I'd always wish that the Jabberwocky would make an appearance, because it was just such a weird creature. The drawing in the original book is so creepy and ugly, but also cool. It's like a dragon, but with buck teeth. And I know this version does not have the buck teeth, but it's still a great design and close enough to the original that I was happy to see it on screen. And then, the icing on the cake for me was that the Jabberwocky was voiced by Christopher Lee. He has such a great voice, and I always love it when he shows up on screen. And to hear his voice come out of the Jabberwocky, even though he only had like 2 lines, it just made it that much better for me. Well, those are just a few of my favorite things about the movie. I know it's not everybody's favorite, but if you haven't seen it, I really recommend it. There's just so many great little things about it, so many design choices, so many things in the background, so many little things to notice in this movie that just make it such an interesting visual treat to watch. Well, thanks for watching. I'll be back next week with another version of Alice in Wonderland. I think I'll probably do the 1999 version. It was one of my favorite movies as a kid, and I'm really excited to watch it again. I'll see you then.